4 spine-chilling Reddit threads revealed terrifying backstories behind cursed encounters. Jenna felt a chill creep down her spine as she read the words on her screen. The Reddit thread spoke of dark secrets buried deep within her new suburban neighborhood, stories of families who had fled in terror and children who vanished without a trace. Each tale hinted at something sinister lurking in the shadows, and she could already feel the weight of the first night's silence settling like a heavy blanket over her new home. With her 8-year-old son, Max, curled up on the couch with a comic book, Jenna opened the box labeled Family Photos and sifted through its contents. The faded pictures revealed a vibrant youth, her grandmother smiling joyfully at family gatherings. But as she dug deeper, she stumbled upon a photograph of a man standing beside her grandmother, his smile charming yet unsettling. The threads had mentioned a man like him, a charismatic councilman who seemed to draw people in. Suddenly, those friendly faces she'd seen outside shifted into something murkier, fitting into a narrative far darker than the perfect suburb portrayed. As dusk fell that first night, Jenna tried to shake off the creeping sense of dread. The wind howled outside, and the old windows creaked in response. Just as she began to drift off, a whisper echoed through the dim hallways. It was low and soft, like a child's call for help, or worse. Max stirred, his back stiffening as shadows flickered just beyond the half-open door. "Mom, did you hear that?" His wide eyes glistened with confusion. Jenna's heart raced. She dismissed it as the house settling, a little nervous energy mixed with the stories she'd read. Days passed, but Max's nightmares worsened. He woke up screaming, thrashing in the sheets, his voice hoarse with fear as he pleaded to keep the lights on. As Jenna fought to project calmness, she couldn't shake the whispers that crept through the halls and stirred the hairs on the back of her neck. The neighbors waved, their smiles strained, but their eyes darted away, as if remembering something best left buried. Then she stumbled upon more threads, strange posts shared by families that had lived in her community. "Families disappeared without a trace," one read. The councilman always had a way of smoothing things over, even with the swirling rumors. The fear in every word felt visceral. Jenna could almost hear their quivering voices as they recounted unexplained incidents. The hairs on her arms stood up as she absorbed horrifying details about a man who could charm you into silence and fear. Panic surged in her as she looked down the street, to the councilman's house, lit up and inviting, where she had waved just days ago. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Each detail left her breathless. Reports of missing children echoed in her mind, and her instinct screamed that her son was in danger. She needed to confront the councilman, but as night descended, paranoia washed over her. The walls of her house, now dark and foreboding, reverberated with the whispers that would not fade. The councilman's silhouette floated just outside. She swore she could see him, lingering by the street lamp, watching. The whispering crescendoed into anguished wails again. Max's grip tightened on her hand, eyes wide with fright. Jenna's heart pounded in her chest. The echo of a knock resonated on her door, loud and desperate, both familiar and terrifying. What lay beyond that door? Each tick of the clock felt like a countdown, and with Max beside her, she realized she was teetering on the edge of a darkness she didn't yet understand. Jenna's breath hitched as the knock reverberated through the silent house. It was persistent, almost demanding. Max's fingers squeezed her hand like a vice, his small frame trembling against her side. She glanced toward the door, heart racing. Who could it be? a neighbor, or worse, him. The councilman with that unsettling smile. "Mom, please," Max whispered, his voice barely audible over the pounding of her heart. The world outside felt suffocating. The shadows danced like taunting specters, and the air grew thick with tension. "Stay here," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Max nodded, a mixture of fear and trust etched on his face. Jenna took a deep breath and moved toward the door, the old wood creaking under her weight. She hesitated, hand hovering above the doorknob. The knocking grew faster, echoing like a heartbeat. She opened the door just a crack, heart pounding in her throat. The porch light illuminated a figure wrapped in a dark coat, face scarcely visible beneath the brim of a hat. It was a woman, thin and frail, her eyes wide with a mixture of urgency and terror. "You have to help me!" she gasped, voice hoarse, words spilling out in desperation. "He's coming for us! They're all gone!" Jenna felt her pulse quicken, alarm bells ringing in her mind. She didn't recognize this woman, but the insistent echo of the Reddit threads flooded back, whispers of those who had vanished, families torn apart. Who's coming?" "The councilman. You have to get out. They—" Before she could finish, shadows flickered in the periphery, moving with an unnatural grace. The woman's eyes darted behind Jenna. Panic surged within Jenna. She glanced over her shoulder. Max was there, his small hand gripping the doorframe, reading her expression as if sensing danger. The woman's breath hitched. "He knows you're inside. You have to leave now." Jenna felt the weight of the decision crumple her resolve. I can't just leave." The words tumbled out, laced with disbelief and fear. The woman stepped closer, her voice low and urgent. "You don't see what's happening around you. They'll come for him next." Jenna's heart twisted. The thought of losing Max sent waves of terror coursing through her veins. A loud crack echoed behind the woman, causing her to jerk toward the sound. Panic etched in the corner of her eyes. "I'm not safe here!" she cried, and in that moment she turned and fled down the steps, fading into the inky blackness of the night. "Mom!" Max's voice broke through her fog of confusion. "Who was that?" Jenna stepped back inside, closing the door with trembling hands. "I don't know, Max, but we need to keep the doors locked." The air grew heavy, the whispers more pronounced as if the house had come alive, swirling with secrets. Each tick of the clock felt like a countdown again, the shadows inside her home crawling closer, hungry for something she could not grasp. "Should we call the police?" Max suggested, eyes darting toward the windows. "We can't," Jenna whispered, shaking herself away from her panic. "It could make things worse." The shadows outside danced once more, and a figure loomed just beyond the window, illuminated by the street lamp. A face, framed in soft light, familiar yet horrifying. The councilman. He stood still as stone, watching. Jenna's stomach dropped, ice flooding her veins. She turned to Max, whose wide eyes mirrored her own terror. The whispers turned into a chorus of voices, a cacophony of anguish and pleading, filling the corners of the room. They echoed, as if rejecting the silence. The door banged hard against the frame. The councilman was not just a figure of her paranoia. He was a threat that lingered, coiling tighter around them. "Mom, what do we do?" Max whimpered, grasping her tightly. "What if we're in danger, Max?" she gasped, struggling to breathe amidst the suffocating dread. The whispers reached a fevered pitch, obscuring any rational thought, and her heart raced with panic. Suddenly the lights flickered and went out, plunging them into darkness. Just then the door rattled violently, a voice lamenting from the shadowy veil. "What have you done? You've invited him in!" What had she done? Jenna felt the weight of dread wrap around her like a noose. As reality turned inside out around her, she grasped Max's arm tightly, the room spinning into chaos. They were not alone anymore. What had she awoken? Max's grip tightened as Jenna's heart raced, each thud echoing louder than the last. The shadows swallowed the room, and Jenna felt a suffocating chill creep up her spine. The voice, low and grave, lingered in the air, wrapping around her like a shroud. What had she done? Mom! Max's voice trembled, quaking in the darkness. His small frame felt fragile against her. She could sense the fear clouding his mind, could hear it in his voice. She breathed in deeply, fighting to keep a semblance of control. "We need to stay quiet," she whispered, straining to listen above the pulsating dread. The door rattled again, a relentless assault aimed at breaking their resolve. "Jenna!" The voice from outside called her name, silky and slithering, a familiar tone but laced with a sinister edge. "Let me in. I promise it will be quick. Painless." Jenna's pulse raced. It was almost affectionate, yet chilling in its delivery, wrapping around her thoughts with venom. She couldn't let it in. She had to protect Max. "Mom!" he cried. The desperation in his voice sent waves of dread crashing over her. "What do we do?" In that instant, Jenna glanced toward the window. The councilman was still there, eyes piercing through the darkness, a puppet master controlling the strings. She stepped back, drawing Max with her towards the living room, where shadows loomed like predators. "Where are we going?" Max asked, his voice a whisper. "Anywhere but here," Jenna decided, feeling the cold steel of the kitchen knife in her hand. It had been a tool for safety, now it felt like an anchor in a storm. She ushered Max through the dimly lit corridor, quiet as a mouse, every creak of the old wooden floorboards echoing loudly. The whispers outside morphed into a symphony of torment, battling against the silence they desperately clung to. The councilman's voice, still smooth and haunting, reverberated. "You could have been safe with me, Jenna. You only need to open the door." He paused, and in that silence her breath hung in the air, thick with tension. "Don't you want to know the truth?" "What truth?" she murmured to herself more than to him. What truth lay behind his sweet promises? They reached the kitchen, and Jenna moved swiftly to the back door. It was locked tight, but perhaps— "Max, help me," she said with urgency, her trembling fingers fumbling with the deadbolt as she glanced at the window, half expecting it to shatter into 1,000 pieces. "Mom!" Max's voice was rising, a warning against the mounting dread. "Keep quiet!" she hissed, fighting the rising panic threatening to sweep her away. Just then, a loud bang erupted from the living room, the front door slamming against its frame, as if someone, or something, was forcing its way in. The wood splintered under pressure, a sick crack splitting the night. "Come out! Come out! Wherever you are!" the councilman called, a mocking sing-song quality drenching his words. Jenna's heart threatened to explode. She yanked the back door open, stepping out into the cool night air. It felt like a small relief, but the darkness beyond seemed just as terrifying. The shadows danced before her, silhouettes of the unknown lurking as they always had. "Mom!" Max's voice shot through her, panic-stricken. "We can't go out there. That's where they are." Jenna's eyes were wide, her mind racing. "Stay close to me!" she shouted, heart pounding against its cage. But as she turned to shield Max, ground trembled underfoot, and the whispers skyrocketed into a cacophony, drowning out her thoughts. It was as if the earth itself was alive, vibrating with a dark energy, pulling them back towards the house, towards the councilman. "Do you see, Jenna?" he laughed, the sound slithering into the night air. "You're already in too deep." With a surge of adrenaline, she pulled Max toward the woods bordering their backyard. The trees stretched like jagged teeth against the dark sky. But as they stumbled into the underbrush, something shifted behind them. The councilman slipped from the shadows, now closer, his figure looming like a warning. "Your secrets won't keep you safe forever." Every instinct screamed at her to run, but they were already being hunted. What other horrors were unleashed? What awaited them in the swath of darkness? Just then the air thickened, and Jenna felt a crack in the ground beneath her. The whispers screamed louder, and the tree branches began to twist as if reaching for their very souls. And in that moment they realized Stepping into the woods might unearth something far worse. Could they escape the horror crawling to claim them? Jenna pushed through the branches, her heart racing, each beat drowning out the whispers that seemed to rise from the ground itself. She could feel the weight of Max pressing against her side, the warmth of his small body, a fragile comfort in the growing dread surrounding them. The night air was thick with a tension that felt alive, almost suffocating. "Mom, where is he?" Max's voice broke the silence, panic rising like bile in her throat. "Shh! Don't talk!" she hissed, forcing herself to keep moving. Adrenaline fueled her steps as they sank deeper into the woods. Branches clawed at her arms, leaving stinging reminders of the danger lurking just beyond their sight. And then a crack. A sharp sound cut through the night like a twig snapping underfoot. A cold sweat dripped down Jenna's back, the terror curling like fingers around her throat. "Did you hear that?" Max whispered, eyes wide and glimmering in the moonlight. "Yeah, just keep moving," she urged, her own voice trembling. The darkness closed in. Then it happened. The ground beneath them shifted again, an unsettling tremor vibrating through the earth. Jenna stumbled, catching herself just before falling. Max clung to her, terror-stricken. "What is happening?" "I don't know," she gasped. "Just hold on to me." The tremors grew more frantic, as if the very landscape was reacting to their presence. She spotted a clearing ahead, a faint shimmer breaking through the branches. Maybe it was safety, maybe it was hope. But as they approached, a figure emerged from the shadows. Jenna's breath hitched in her throat. It was the councilman, his eyes glinting like polished stones, an unsettling smile stretched across his face. "Did you think you could escape?" he crooned, stepping into the moonlight, the darkness never truly relinquishing its grip on him. "The woods have eyes, Jenna." "No!" Jenna screamed, pulling Max close as the ground quaked beneath them. The trees seemed to creak in objection, their branches lashing out as if the very woods were alive, refusing to let them pass. "Tell me the truth," he demanded, his voice dripping with mock sincerity. "Don't you want to know what I know?" "I don't care about your lies!" Jenna shouted, forcing her voice through the storm of emotions swirling inside. Max shrank back against her, trembling. "Mom!" But the councilman laughed, a low growl that mixed with the now howling wind, drowning out their thoughts. "Then you'll never understand the danger you're in, will you?" Before she could react, the ground heaved violently again, sending both Jenna and Max tumbling. Trees swayed dangerously overhead, their roots breaking from the soil as if in rebellion. "Run!" she shouted, determination surging through her. They needed to get away from him, away from this madness. As they fought to stand, shadows twisted and pounced around them, flickering like flames. Jenna took Max's hand, and they sprinted into the clearing, desperate for an escape. But the shadows followed, whispers swirling around them, taunting, beckoning. It was a close race. They burst into the clearing, and despair washed over Jenna. The moonlight revealed it, a massive pit, dark and uninviting, bubbling like a cauldron waiting to consume them. "We can't go that way," Max cried out. "What choice do we have?" she said, glancing back at the councilman, who now stood laughing, his figure flickering as if he were part of the very night itself. "Max, we have to jump." "No!" he screamed. But there was no time. The ground beneath her feet was giving way, and she felt the tendrils of the darkness stretching, reaching for them. As she grabbed Max, they leaped together, their screams mingling with the whispers swirling around them, echoing into the unknown. And then, silence. For just a moment, there was nothing but a chilling void, and Jenna feared for what might come next. But as they hung suspended in that empty dark, the whispers returned. A chilling sensation rippled through her as they echoed louder, now mixed with laughter, mocking and sinister. "Do you see, Jenna?" The councilman's voice slithered around them, weaving a tapestry of terror. "Your secrets have only begun to unravel." What awaited them below? Would they find escape or surrender to the dark that hungered for them? With her heart hammering, all Jenna could think was how far they had fallen, and if they could ever climb back to safety. Jenna's mind raced, time stretching in the stillness. Was this the end, or just another beginning stitched together by the night? The void around them held no answers, only the relentless pulse of their fear. Then with a jolt, they hit something solid. The impact knocked the breath from Jenna's lungs. She pushed herself up, shaking off the disorientation. Max was beside her, his face pale and wide-eyed, searching the darkness for reassurance. Are we still alive?" he whispered, voice trembling. "I think so," she replied, though uncertainty gnawed at her heart. They had landed on the edge of a shallow basin, slick with mud and shadows. Wisps of fog curled around them like fingers playing an eerie game. "Look!" Max pointed, eyes darting. "Over there!" A flickering light broke through the haze, pulsing like a heartbeat. Jenna's instincts screamed caution, but it was a beacon, something real in a realm of nightmares. They crawled toward it, mud squishing beneath their hands. As they drew closer, the light grew, revealing a strange structure half embedded in the earth. It looked like a twisted altar, adorned with ancient symbols, runes that shimmered with a terrible allure, glowing like embers in the dark. "What is that?" Max asked, awe mixed with fear. "I don't know," Jenna whispered, drawn to it against her better judgment. The whispers became clearer now, echoing off the walls of the basin, a cacophony of voices intertwining in a seductive symphony. "Jenna," they hissed, sweet as honey, yet edged with malice. "Join us!" The councilman's mocking laughter swirled within them, his words etched in the background. "You think you can hide from your past. The woods remember." "Stay close to me," she urged, clutching Max's hand. The warmth reassured her, but even as she spoke, a shiver ran down her back. Max's grip tightened, his small fingers trembling with fear. Just then, the altar pulsed brighter, and shadows erupted from its cracked surface like angry hornets. They twisted into grotesque shapes, darting toward them, filling the air with their angry whispers. Jenna staggered back, pulling Max with her. "We need to run!" she yelled, but terror rooted them in place. Then from the shadows, faces emerged, hollow eyes, twisted mouths. They reached, as if grasping for what was lost. "Help us! Help us!" The moans shook Jenna to her core, fragments of memories drifting into her mind, faces she once knew. "Mom!" Max shouted, panic surging. "They're coming!" With a surge of adrenaline, Jenna yanked him back toward the crude path they had come from. But every direction seemed to claw at her with more shadows, more reaches of despair, funneling them deeper into the horror. "Why won't they leave us alone?" she cried, stumbling over roots that twisted like living things beneath her feet. The altar's glow dimmed, retreating into the recesses of the earthen walls, as if it too feared the darkness gathering outside. "You have to let go!" one shadow shrieked. "We will consume you!" Another howled. In that moment, Jenna heard something else, a whisper that pierced through the discord. "The truth lies hidden beneath." "What truth?" she shrieked, almost lost in the chaos. The voice twisted into laughter, blood-curdling and insistent. "Only the brave can surface it." Jenna stumbled, heart racing. How much further could they go? What did the shadows want from her? Then she noticed a shimmering thread weaving towards the altar, a thread of light in this murky nightmare, and she felt a pull, an aching need to uncover what lay beneath the altar. But was it a lifeline or a snare? "Max, we need to go," Jenna urged, unsure of what they would find if they stayed, or if they dared to chase the light. "Mom, don't!" He was terrified, but something in her heart urged forward. The darkness clawed at her, growing thicker, suffocating. Decisions loomed, shadows closing in around them. The altar beckoned with a promise of revelation, and yet dread coiled tighter with every whispered lie. As they hesitated, the shadows surged, hungry and impatient. Jenna's breath quickened, and she realized they had to choose. escape or face whatever secret her past held, waiting in that sinister glow. What do we do now? Max looked up at her, eyes wide. In that moment of uncertainty, the ground shook again, more violently this time, as if the very earth was urging them onward, or perhaps warning them of the danger ahead. And just then, Jenna caught sight of something glimmering beneath the altar. Could it hold the key to their survival, or would it lead them headlong into darkness? Jenna's pulse hammered in her ears as she caught sight of the shimmer. The light seemed to pulse like a living thing, teasing her with promises she didn't understand. "Max," she breathed, pulling him closer, "we can't stay here." "No! I want to know!" His voice was shrill, panic rising like bile in her throat. "What if it's Mom? What if she's trapped?" The shadows swarmed around them, angry whispers curling in their ears like smoke. "Find us! Free us!" They moaned, a chorus of anguish that hung heavy in the air. Jenna squeezed Max's hand tighter, her heart racing with dread. "Listen!" she shouted over the tide of desperate voices. "We have to find a way out." But deep down, uncertainty gripped her like a chokehold. Whatever was hidden beneath that altar might be the truth, but truth was a double-edged sword that could cut deep. Max's gaze drifted back toward the glowing altar. "What if we can help her?" he pleaded, his eyes shimmering with unshed tears. A chill ran down Jenna's spine. She remembered her mother's face, illuminated with love, but twisted by the tragedies that had chased their family. "I don't want to lose you too, Max." Just beyond the altar, the shadows thickened, morphing into figures of dread. They stared, their hollow eyes glistening with unsated hunger. "Join us." "No!" Jenna screamed. She was tired of running, tired of losing everything. If the altar held a secret, she had to confront it. With a shaky breath, she stepped toward the shimmering thread, and as she did, the shadows screamed in unison, a cacophony piercing the oppressive darkness. "No! Don't touch it! Don't!" But the pull was undeniable. Like a moth to a flame, Jenna was entranced. She felt an undercurrent of power, a surge of strength radiating from the thread, igniting something inside her. She dropped to her knees, her fingers brushing against the cold, damp earth. As if responding to her touch, the ground trembled, and the altar erupted with blinding light, shadowy figures writhing in its glow. Faces and screams filled her mind, a whirlwind of memories violent and painful. "Mom!" Max's voice trembled in the whirlwind of chaos, but Jenna couldn't look away. The light grew brighter and brighter until it enveloped everything, expanding into the void. "Do you seek the truth?" The voice echoed, corrosive and alluring. "Every family has its skeletons." "No, I only want Max," Jenna shouted, her voice swallowed by the blinding glow. She could feel the darkness pressing against her skin, creeping into her mind, clawing at her resolve, but she pressed on. Just then, the light flickered, revealing a figure in the haze, a woman who looked like her mother, but older, sadder, her expression full of yearning. "Jenna, my dear." "Mom, is it really you?" Jenna gasped, her heart racing with a mix of hope and fear. This could be the moment, or it could be a deadly trap leading to despair. But before she could move, shadows swirled around the figure, dragging it back into the void. "Join us, Jenna," the shadows cried. "Become one with your past." "Max!" Jenna screamed, the world around her collapsing into fragments of light and shadow. She felt her grip on him slipping, his terrified face the only anchor left in this spiraling descent. "No!" Max shouted, his voice panicked. "I won't let them take you!" Just then, a piercing scream erupted from the darkness, a wail that resonated with raw agony, shattering Jenna's concentration. In that moment, the thread of light snapped, and the altar descended into darkness, shadows flooding over them, twisting and contorting. Jenna felt her heart pounding, each beat echoing with threats and promises spun together in an unholy tapestry. With one last, desperate push, Jenna lunged for the figure that had appeared, reaching with every ounce of strength she had left. And then darkness swallowed her whole. When Jenna opened her eyes again, she was lying on the ground, cold and wet. The altar was gone. Max was beside her, trembling. But where were they? Their surroundings had shifted once more. An overgrown path stretched before them, choked with roots and indistinct whispers carried by the wind. "What just happened?" Max's voice was barely a whisper. "Where are we, Jenna?" And as they looked down the path, a distant echo sent chills down their spines. The wailing had returned, weaving through the trees like an angry spirit. "We have to keep moving," Jenna urged, though doubt gnawed at her mind. What lay ahead? Freedom or more shadows? Would they ever outrun the night? The oppressive trees felt like a tomb closing in around Jenna and Max. Each step on the twisted path sent a shiver through Jenna's spine. She glanced back, half expecting the shadows to follow, to drag them down into the abyss they had just escaped. But the shadows were silent now, merely a whisper cloaked in darkness. "Can you hear that?" Max broke the silence, his voice trembling. There it was again. The wailing echoed like a sorrowful wind seeping into their bones. It grew louder, a haunting melody that played upon their fears. Jenna felt her heart thud heavily in her chest. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back. "We shouldn't be here," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "We need to find a way out." "What if Mom is close?" Max shot back, defiance bubbling beneath his fear. "What if she's trying to tell us something? We can't just leave her." His eyes glistened with determination. Jenna understood that glimmer. It was hope, but it was also a trap waiting to snap shut. "Hope can get us killed," she muttered, moving forward, pulling him along with her. The road twisted like a serpent, trees looming taller and more crooked, their branches clawing at the sky like bony fingers. The wailing morphed, shifting from a mere echo to a rich tapestry of voices. "Help us, join us, free us." It was a chorus woven from anguish and desire, wrapping around them like a suffocating fog. Jenna could hardly breathe. Suddenly, Max stopped. "Jenna, look!" He pointed ahead with wide eyes. A shimmering figure stood between the trees, a woman clad in a long white dress that billowed as if caught in an unseen wind. Her hair flowed like delicate tendrils of light, but her eyes were black, voids holding a storm of sorrow that paralyzed Jenna. "Mom!" Max ventured, hope and fear colliding like thunder. The figure turned slowly. "Max. Jenna." Her voice was melodic yet haunting, reverberating with an echo that sent chills down Jenna's spine. "I've been waiting for you. Come closer." "Don't move." Jenna instinctively pulled Max back. The despair in the figure's eyes sank into her gut like a heavy stone. "She's not—" "Jenna!" Max interrupted, already stepping forward. "What if she can help us?" "No!" Jenna shouted, panic lacing her voice. "What if it's a trick?" But desire twinkled in Max's eyes, a flicker of hope igniting a dangerous flame. "It's our Mom. She's here for a reason." The figure beckoned, lips curling into a melancholic smile. "You have to join me. I can help you. We can be a family again." Jenna felt something snap inside. The shadows hadn't just whispered lies. They were using the anguish, a tool to manipulate. "Max, stop! You don't know what she's offering." But the moment hung heavy, time slowing as Max hesitated. The shadows churned behind Jenna, thickening and coiling like snakes, urging her onward. Together, all together, they lured. "Don't trust her," Jenna gasped, gripping Max's arm as she felt the darkness seeping closer, caressing her with cold dread. "She's not who you think." Max faltered, uncertainty flickering across his face. The figure's smile faded into something grotesque, her features warping. "You were always drawn to the darkness, Jenna. Join him. Join me." Just then, the ground trembled beneath them. The trees seemed to sway as if terrified, roots tearing from the earth. "We have to run," Jenna screamed. But before she could move, the figure lunged at Max, hands reaching out like a predator's claws. "Join us, Max!" Jenna screamed, her heart racing, panic clawing at her throat as she felt herself being pulled toward the figure's dark allure. "I'll save you!" Max shouted, but Jenna could feel him slipping away, the darkness whispering sweet promises in his ear. The ground fissured, and the world around them ripped apart. The last thing Jenna saw was the terror etched on Max's face as the shadows surged forward like a tidal wave, swallowing them both in its depths. And then blackness, as darkness enveloped her once more. A chilling thought struck Jenna. The voices weren't over yet. "What have they become?" whispered 1,000 souls, resonating in her ears, a macabre funeral dirge only just beginning. Jenna's breath came in quick gasps as she tumbled through the void of darkness. Time and space felt irrelevant, twisted into an endless nightmare. She clawed at the oppressive nothingness, her heart hammering in her chest, desperate for light or an escape. But no way out came, only a chilling laughter echoed around her, bouncing off unseen walls. Then just as suddenly, she landed hard on cool earth. Pain shot up from her knees, grounding her in reality. The air was thick and musty, scented with decay. She scrambled to her feet, scanning her surroundings. Swirling shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, taunting her. "Max!" she screamed, her voice cracking, desperation cutting through the stillness. "Max, where are you?" Silence lingered, stifling. Every instinct hurled her forward, but her heart ached with fear. If they had been separated, who knew what awaited him in this hellish prison? "Max!" she called again, her voice trembling with dread. The oppressive darkness whispered around her, the mocking voices twisting into laughter that echoed in her ears. "Join us. Be with the lost." The ground began to tremble beneath her feet, and the air chilled, prickling her skin. Tendrils of shadow slithered toward her like fingers reaching out to claim her. With every instinct screaming, Jenna spun around, bolting down a narrow path that opened up. As she sprinted, the wailing grew again. It was her mother's voice, haunting and familiar. "Jenna, come closer." "No!" Jenna shouted back, forcing her feet to move faster. "You're not real." But the words felt hollow, uncertainty gnawing at her. She needed to find Max. With every turn, the trees contorted grotesquely, their silhouettes twisting into figures that beckoned her deeper into the darkness. The path forked ahead. Jenna paused, her heart fluttering wildly, images of Max trapped in the clutches of the shadow woman flashing in her mind. "Right or left?" she asked the trembling trees, the air crackling with tension. Without thinking, she chose left, the shadows swirling menacingly behind her. Suddenly, Jenna stumbled upon a clearing where the darkness shimmered like a mirage. In the center stood a stone altar, soaked with dark fluid that glistened under the dim light. The air thrummed with energy, an unseen force that hummed around her, lapping at her ankles like waves. Above the altar, a glint of silver caught her eye. Desperation pulled her forward. She rushed to the stone slab, noticing the intricately carved runes etched into the surface. But there, shimmering in the chaos, lay a silver locket, the one their mother used to wear. It pulsed with an eerie warmth, and Jenna grasped it tightly. "Max!" An anguished cry escaped her lips as the shadows writhed closer, whispering with a furious hunger. "The locket!" It felt alive in her palm, sending a jolt of energy coursing through her veins. Could it help them? Just as she was about to pocket it, a cold voice slithered through the air, wrapping around her. "You should have joined us, dear." The figure of their mother appeared behind her, but her face was twisted, eyes swirling blacker than night. "Now you'll perish alone, forever." The echoes of lost souls surrounded Jenna, their wails rising to a deafening crescendo. "Get away from me!" Jenna yelled, clutching the locket tighter. An electric force surged, and she felt an overwhelming need to scream, to fight. Desperation clawed at her throat. "Max, where are you?" And then a familiar shout rang out, smaller, yet wrapped in fear. "Jenna, help! Max!" But the shadows surged, cloaked figures reaching. The stone altar trembled beneath her feet, and a piercing light erupted from the locket that threatened to shatter the darkness. Together. The voices urged, a chorus of longing and terror. Jenna's heart raced wildly. Could she save him in time? Could love really conquer this abyss? The locket pulsed, light flaring brightly, and she leapt forward towards the shadows, the warmth enveloping her. But just before contact, the ground beneath them split open, and a void of blackness loomed, waiting to devour them both. The air crackled with a sinister energy, an engulfing blackness threatening to swallow everything whole. Jenna felt her heart pound in her ears, the sound drowning out the wild whispers that clawed at her sanity. She darted forward, the light from the locket illuminating the encroaching darkness like a beacon. But the abyss yawned deeper, and she felt the pull as if it were a physical force. "Max!" she cried again, launching herself toward the darkness that split the ground. The light burst forth, a desperate flare in the deepening gloom. Shadows recoiled, shrieking as the incandescent energy clashed with their cold grasp. But would it be enough? With one mighty leap, she dove into the void, the world around her warping, twisting. The warmth of the locket coursed through her, fighting against the icy chill threatening to snuff it out. She landed on a jarring surface that felt alive beneath her. She sat up, blinking against the haze, and there, slumped against a wall, was Max. He looked up, his eyes wide with fear and hope. "Jenna, you found me." His relief was palpable, a single light in a landscape consumed by horror. Yet the relief was short-lived. The darkness pulsed with a malignant hunger, the shadows slinking closer, still hungry for what they could take. "Hold on!" Jenna shouted, scrambling to her feet and rushing toward him. The locket in her hand felt like a hot ember, burning with an urgency to protect them both. "We have to get out of here!" Max staggered to his feet, his face pale. What happened? I heard your voice. I thought—" "They're using us," Jenna gasped. I think they want our souls, Max. We can't let them take us." The darkness thickened, wrapping around their limbs, pulling at them with clammy fingers. Jenna's breath hitched as she felt the despair whisper in her ear, "Join the lost." Max shivered beside her, and she stifled a sob. "Stay close," she urged, gripping his hand tightly. "Whatever happens, we face it together." The shadows hissed in response, a chorus of anguish that twisted her insides. They pressed forward, and Jenna felt the heartbeat of the land resonate with a malevolent rhythm. Every step sent shockwaves through her, scaling the walls that loomed taller and taller, etched with grotesque images of grief. "What do we do?" Max whispered, eyes wide and glistening. "Remember the locket. It was Mom's," Jenna said, brandishing it like a sword. "It has to have power. We can use it." A rumble shook the ground as monstrous figures materialized, cloaked in despair, their faces twisting in anguish. Each one seemed to echo the loss of something sacred. Fear gripped at Jenna's throat, nearly choking her. "Let's try to harness it. Focus on the good times," Jenna exclaimed. She closed her eyes, memories flooding back, days spent in sunlight, laughter echoing in the backyard, their mother's warm embrace. But the shadows sneered, hollow and chilling. "Your memories mean nothing here." The light from the locket flickered, almost dimming under the weight of the shadows. Jenna's heart squeezed painfully. She had to believe. She had to fight. She pushed those memories more fiercely, drawing strength from the fire of their love. The darkness surged, threatening to engulf her. "Jenna! Max!" the twisted silhouettes cried, a cacophony of despair wrapping around them. The air thickened with an unnatural chill that pulled at her skin, drawing her backwards, towards despair. "Together!" she cried out, squeezing Max's hand tighter. "Now!" The locket flared to life again, radiating an impossible warmth that spread through the air, illuminating the darkness for a brief, shining moment. Shadowy fingers recoiled, and for the first time, doubt flickered in their hollow eyes. But just as the shadows began to dissipate, the cliff they stood upon cracked, a rumbling tremor vibrating through Jenna's very bones. The ground beneath them shattered, and they teetered on the edge of oblivion. Screams of rage and fear pierced the air, the echoes of lost souls threatening to drag them down. Then the link between Jenna and Max glowed brightly, but before she could grasp its full potential, the earth trembled violently, sending both children sliding toward the chasm. "Jenna!" he screamed, his fingers slipping from her grasp. "No!" Jenna howled, desperation clawing at her chest. As he fell into the void, Jenna lunged desperately for him, but the shadows lunged back, wrapping around her, pulling her down. The locket's light flickered as the darkness swallowed her scream, a cacophony of twisted laughter surrounding her. Together, yet apart. The voices echoed, resonating through the darkness, and as she fell, Jenna was left with one burning question. Could she still save him before it was too late? Jenna's heart raced as she plummeted into the abyss, fear and desperation intertwining like a tangled web. She extended her hands, grasping at shadows, hoping to reach Max while floating in a void of echoes. "Max!" she screamed, her voice swallowed by the dark. Just as panic threatened to overtake her, she felt the warmth of the locket in her palm surge with unyielding energy. "Max, I promise I won't let you go." In the shroud of darkness, Jenna began to focus. Memories flooded her mind, sun-kissed days filled with laughter, warm hugs, and her mother's encouraging smile. She clung to them, letting them ignite a fire within her. "Together, Max!" she called, the locket illuminating the void like a lighthouse. The darkness twisted and recoiled, the whispers screeching, "You cannot hold on to him, he's ours." But as the shadows lunged, the locket exploded with light, sending them scattering like roaches in the sun. Through the chaos, Jenna felt a tether. It was faint but human, a heartbeat synchronized with her own. She closed her eyes and concentrated, pouring every ounce of her love for Max into the bright pulse resonating from the locket. Suddenly, a scene materialized before her, Max suspended in a space between realms, eyes wide with fear. "Jenna!" he cried, arms reaching out. Tears streamed down her face. "I'm coming for you!" She pushed with all her might, the locket glowing fiercely, connecting their spirits across the void. Dark shapes circled around Max, but Jenna's light began to merge with his, illuminating the darkness with an ethereal glow. "Just hold on!" she shouted, sending warmth and love through the tether that linked them. The darkness around Max began to waver, and Jenna felt the pull of their connection solidify, strengthening their bond through the heart of the chaos. Jenna surged forward, energized by his trust and love, breaking through layers of shadowed fear. She was no longer alone, their bond transformed into a shield against despair. With one last push, they collided, the light from the locket engulfing them. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in anguish as the radiant power split through the void, breaking the hold the darkness had on them. In a blinding flash, Jenna and Max found themselves standing on solid ground, their surroundings transformed. The shadows faded, losing their grip as light flooded the area around them. The altar lay behind them, its ominous glow extinguished. Jenna clutched Max close, the warmth of his small frame steadying her racing heart. "You're safe," she whispered, a smile breaking through her tears. "Did we beat the darkness?" Max asked, his voice shaky but laced with hope. Jenna nodded, glancing over her shoulder at the remnants of their torment. "For now. But we need to keep moving. Together. Always." Hand in hand, they stepped forward, the path ahead transformed into a sunlit forest. The air was sweet, filled with the fragrance of blooming flowers, sunlight filtering through the branches above. I can still feel Mom, Max said, looking at her with wide, innocent eyes. She's just somewhere close, right? Jenna's heart ached with the weight of truth. Maybe, but if we keep going, we might find her. With each step, they felt lighter, the weight of the shadows behind them slowly lifting. As they walked, the sunlight danced around them, warm and welcoming. Hope blossomed anew in Jenna's chest, reminding her that they were survivors, bound by love and united against darkness. The whispers faded into gentle murmurs of the forest, harmonizing with their footsteps, guiding them onward. Together, they forged a path into the unknown, believing in possibility, trusting that love would lead them to new beginnings. There was still so much to unravel, but now they faced whatever lay ahead with courage. "Let's go," Jenna said, glancing at Max. "No more running. We will uncover the truth, if it's the last thing we do." As they ventured into the depths of the glowing woods, Jenna knew one thing above all: the darkness would not claim them again, not while they had each other. This was just the beginning. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. It's crucial. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support and remind everyone that true fans understand the importance of these actions. Don't wait even one more second.